A single screenshot. That's all it took to destroy everything. Pastor Michael's wife, Grace, had been careful for 8 months. Every secret message deleted. Every late-night call explained away. Every lie perfectly rehearsed. But on a quiet Sunday evening, while her husband prepared his sermon in the study, Grace made one fatal mistake. She uploaded a video to her WhatsApp status. A video that showed her in bed with another man, laughing, his hand on her waist, her head on his chest. The caption read, "Finally free when he's busy saving souls." She meant to post it to one person, her affair partner David. Instead, she posted it to her close friends list. 43 people. Church members, family friends, her husband's ministry partners. The screenshot came 11 seconds later. By the time Grace realized what she'd done and deleted it, 17 people had already seen it, 15 had screenshot it, and one person had already forwarded it to someone who would make sure Pastor Michael saw everything. This is the story of how one WhatsApp status destroyed a 20-year marriage, exposed a church's darkest secrets, and proved that sometimes, karma doesn't wait for heaven to deliver justice. To understand how devastating this moment was, you need to know who Grace appeared to be. Grace Okonkwo wasn't just the pastor's wife. She was the ideal pastor's wife. For 19 years, she'd stood beside Pastor Michael at Faith Restoration Ministry. She led the Women's Fellowship. She counseled struggling marriages. She wrote a blog called The Submitted Wife, with over 50,000 followers. Women quoted her advice. Young brides sought her mentorship. Every Sunday, Grace sat in the front row, Bible highlighted, notes detailed, nodding at every word her husband preached. She dressed modestly, spoke softly, never contradicted Michael publicly. She was the living example of everything the church taught about godly womanhood. But Grace was suffocating. Michael wasn't abusive. He wasn't cruel. He was just absent, consumed by ministry. Every evening was a church meeting. Every weekend was a conference. Every conversation eventually circled back to sermon prep or budget committees or building campaigns. For years, Grace tried to tell him, "Michael, I need more time with you." He'd nod, promise to do better, then take on another speaking engagement. She tried to be supportive, to understand that ministry was demanding, to pray through her loneliness. But 19 years is a long time to feel invisible in your own marriage. Then David walked into her life. David was everything Michael wasn't. He was the new choir director, 38 years old, divorced. He'd been hurt by religion and was cautiously returning to church. He saw Grace not as the pastor's wife, but as Grace, a woman with thoughts and dreams and frustrations. It started innocently, conversations after rehearsal, then coffee to discuss choir logistics, then longer conversations where Grace found herself laughing in ways she hadn't in years. David listened, really listened. He remembered details about her that Michael forgot. Her favorite flowers. The novel she'd been trying to finish for 3 years. How she felt trapped playing a role instead of living a life. The emotional affair began months before it became physical. Grace knew it was wrong. She'd counseled dozens of women facing the same temptation. She knew the Bible verses. She knew the consequences. But knowing something is wrong doesn't make the loneliness hurt less. The first time they kissed, Grace cried. Not from guilt, from relief. Someone finally saw her as a woman, not a ministry accessory. For 8 months they were careful. Hotel rooms in the next city. Deleted messages. A private WhatsApp chat that Grace checked obsessively then cleared constantly. And Grace created a separate status list. Just David's number. Where she could be herself. Where she could post photos without her head covering. Jokes that weren't appropriate for a pastor's wife. Moments of freedom. Except tonight, exhausted and careless, she posted to the wrong list. Grace's phone buzzed 30 seconds after she deleted the status. The message was from Stella, one of the church mothers. No words. Just a screenshot of Grace's video with a timestamp showing Stella had viewed it 9 seconds after it was posted. Grace's blood turned to ice. She called Stella immediately. 7 rings. No answer. She typed frantically. "Mama Stella, please, I can explain. That wasn't what it looked like. Please call me." 3 gray check marks. Read. No response. Then her phone began lighting up like a war zone. Messages poured in. From different numbers. Different reactions. Sister Favor. "Grace, tell me this is not you. Please tell me this is a hack." Brother Chitty. "Does Pastor know? Should someone tell him?" Auntie Blessing. "After everything we believed about you. You hypocrite." Anonymous number. "Enjoy your fun now. Judgment is coming." Grace's hand shook so violently she dropped her phone. She ran to the bathroom and vomited. Panic attack seized her chest. Downstairs, she could hear Michael's voice as he practiced his sermon. Tomorrow's topic: living with integrity when no one is watching. The irony was suffocating. Grace knew she had maybe hours before Michael found out. She had two choices: confess now and control the narrative, or wait and hope somehow this would blow over. She chose wrong. She decided to wait, to see if maybe people would keep quiet, to pray for a miracle that wouldn't come. Because while Grace sat paralyzed in her bathroom, Stella was already making a phone call. Not to Pastor Michael. To someone far more dangerous. Sister Stella didn't call Pastor Michael because she wanted something else first: answers, control, and the satisfaction of being the one who handled this situation. By 9 p.m. that night, Stella had convened an emergency meeting. Not officially. Not with elders. Just 5 of the most influential women in the church, gathering in Sister Patience's living room. They called it a prayer meeting. It was actually a tribunal. Grace's phone rang at 9:47 p.m. Sister Patience's voice was cold. "Grace, we need you to come to my house immediately. It's urgent." Grace knew. The way you know before you're told. She considered running, leaving town, disappearing. Instead, she got in her car and drove to her judgment. When she arrived, the 5 women sat in a semicircle. Grace's screenshot was printed out and placed on the coffee table like evidence in a courtroom. Sister Stella spoke first. "We're giving you a chance to explain before we take this to Pastor." Grace tried the truth. "I've been lonely. Michael is never present. I made a terrible mistake." "A mistake?" Sister Patience interrupted. "An 8-month affair is not a mistake. It's a choice." Repeated choices. They knew about the 8 months. Someone had done research. Sister Ngozi leaned forward. "You've been counseling our daughters, our marriages, standing in that pulpit telling us how to be godly wives while you were doing this." Grace felt herself shrinking, becoming smaller and smaller under their disgust. Then Sister Stella delivered the real blow. "We're telling Pastor Michael tomorrow after service. You have 2 options. Confess to him tonight privately, or we expose you publicly." Grace whispered, "Please, don't destroy my marriage." Sister Patience's response was brutal. "You already did that yourself." Grace drove home at midnight, her fate sealed. She found Michael still awake, reading in bed. He looked up and smiled. "How was Sister Patience?" "Everything okay." Grace sat on the edge of the bed, her entire body numb. "Michael, I need to tell you something." The way his face changed, from openness to concern to confusion to horror, would haunt Grace forever. She told him everything. The loneliness, David, the affair, the WhatsApp status, the screenshot, the church mothers knowing. All of it. Michael didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just stared at her like she was a stranger. Then he asked one question. "How long have you been lying to my face?" 8 months. Michael stood up, walked to the closet, started packing a bag. "Michael, please. Don't." His voice cracked. "Don't say my name right now." He slept in his car that night, in the church parking lot, praying for understanding that wouldn't come. Sunday morning arrived. Pastor Michael didn't cancel service. He stood in that pulpit, preached his sermon on integrity, and no one in the congregation knew his world had shattered, except the 5 women who knew everything. They watched him with pity, and they waited. After service, Sister Stella approached Michael. "Pastor, we need to speak with you privately." That's when they showed him the screenshot. That's when they told him they'd given Grace a chance to confess. That's when Michael realized his humiliation wasn't private. It was a church scandal. Within hours, the story spread beyond the church mothers. By evening, the entire congregation knew. By Monday, it was on Christian gossip blogs. By Tuesday, Grace's submitted wife blog was flooded with comments calling her a fraud. The church board convened an emergency meeting. They demanded Michael's resignation. Not because of anything he did, but because his wife's sin had compromised the ministry's integrity. 20 years of faithful service ended because of someone else's choices. But here's where the story takes a turn no one expected. 3 weeks after Grace's exposure, another WhatsApp status went up. This time it was David's girlfriend posting. She uploaded screenshots of David's phone. Messages with 6 different women. Not just Grace. 6 affairs. Overlapping. Simultaneous. Grace saw it and felt sick. She hadn't been special. She'd been convenient. But that wasn't the real karma. The real karma came when people started investigating David's past. Turned out this was his pattern. Join a church. Target vulnerable married women. Sleep with him. Move to the next church when things got messy. Grace had blown up her entire life for a man who specialized in destroying marriages. Meanwhile, the 5 church mothers who judged Grace so harshly, their own secrets started surfacing. Sister Stella, who'd led the tribunal. Her daughter revealed that Stella had been emotionally abusive for years, driving her to attempt suicide twice. The godly mother was a tyrant at home. Sister Patience, who'd called Grace a hypocrite. Church finances revealed she'd been embezzling from the building fund for 3 years. One by one, the women who'd positioned themselves as moral authorities were exposed as flawed, broken, and hypocritical themselves. And Pastor Michael, he left the ministry. Not in shame but in freedom. He realized he'd been so consumed with serving everyone else that he'd neglected the one person who needed him most. He filed for divorce. Not out of hatred, but out of acceptance that some things can't be repaired. 6 months later, Michael started a podcast about burnout in ministry, toxic church culture, and the cost of perfectionism. It became wildly successful because he spoke with humility instead of pretense. So what happened to Grace? She lost everything. Her marriage, her reputation, her platform, her community. But in losing everything, she found something unexpected. The freedom to stop pretending. Grace moved to a different city, started therapy, began the painful work of understanding why she'd made the choices she made and owning the hurt she'd caused. She never remarried, never rebuilt a public platform. She works as a counselor now, helping women in struggling marriages, but this time without pretense, without the perfect facade. When people recognize her, they whisper, some with judgment, some with pity. But Grace doesn't run anymore. She owns her story. The good, the bad, the devastating. Because that WhatsApp status didn't just expose an affair. It exposed the pressure of living behind a mask. The danger of pedestals. The cost of silence in suffering marriages. Grace's story isn't a redemption arc. It's a cautionary tale. Not about avoiding affairs. Everyone knows that's wrong. It's about the danger of pretending to be perfect when you're drowning. About churches that worship image more than truth. About marriages that function on autopilot until someone crashes. One screenshot. 11 seconds. That's all it took to prove that secrets don't stay hidden forever. And sometimes, karma doesn't wait for the next life to settle accounts. If this story made you think twice about the facades we maintain, hit that subscribe button. Because every week, we bring you real stories about real consequences. The kind that remind us we're all more human than we pretend to be. Drop a comment. Have you ever witnessed a secret blow up someone's life? What happened? See you in the next story.